Men are often accused of having selective hearing. Personally, I think it's a wonderful skill to have, to be able to filter out the unimportant, the boring, or just anything you'd be like to be able to deny knowledge of later. To be able to pay attention when someone says something like, "So really, when you think about it, £1,000 is a bargain for a pair of shoes." And yet completely miss it when someone says something like, "I don't know how many times I have to ask, can you please not leave your underwear in the middle of the bathroom floor?" I have to say, my children seem to have absolutely nailed this skill. They'll be watching TV or playing computer games, and if I say something like, "Can you please draw the curtains?" there's almost no chance they'll hear me. If, however, I say, "Would you like a can of Coke?" there's no problem with their ears at all. The upshot is that I find myself raising my voice. If I want to communicate something to my children that they'd rather not hear, I have to repeat myself, sometimes even shout. And I don't like to do that, because whilst what we say is really important, the way in which we say it is incredibly important too. As we've been looking at the book of Timothy together, we've discovered Timothy is a young man sent to lead a church with a number of problems. He's there to make changes, to challenge false teachers and the lies that they teach, to appoint leaders worthy of the task, to set an example for others to follow. I'm sure this was hard. I'm sure it involved confronting any number of people, disciplining those who needed it, pointing out where they're wrong, setting the church on a new path. And we all need this from time to time, because no one of us is perfect. We all need someone to point out to us when we're making mistakes, whether that be sinful things we're doing or false teaching we've believed. And we probably all need to learn to be a bit more gracious when someone does confront us in this way, trying to set us back on the path to Christ. But as Timothy goes about telling people they're wrong, as he goes about trying to set them right, Paul has this advice. He says, "Do not rebuke an older man harshly, but exhort him as if he were your father." When the older men in church are getting it wrong, it's important that Timothy confront them. He can't just leave them to carry on doing what they're doing. But a public rebuke, shouting at them to get them to do what you want, trying to enforce your authority over church elders, it wasn't going to achieve anything. For that culture, far more than for ours, respecting one's elders was incredibly important. Rebuking, shouting at old men is going to be counterproductive. It probably still is. It's not just what Timothy has to say, what he wishes to communicate, but how he communicates it that's important. And that's true of us as well. Sometimes as a church family, we do need to correct each other. Sometimes we do need to challenge each other. But how we do that is going to determine how effective it is. The book of James compares the tongue to a rudder of a ship, a relatively small part, but it has a huge impact. The way we speak to each other is important. The difference between rebuking someone for something they've done wrong and encouraging them to do something different can have a huge impact. So for you today, I'd encourage you, don't give up on helping one another to learn and grow and become more Christ-like. But do think about how you communicate. Not just communicating rebukes, but how you communicate anything. Are your emails, WhatsApp messages, words seasoned with love? Because I think they'll be far more effective if they are.